Commutative and associative properties. You have 4 properties. Yesterday you had like 7 or 8. Today you have just 4. Commutative and associative properties. The commutative property of addition says that if you have A plus B, you can write that as B plus A. That's the same thing as saying if I had 3 plus 5, I can write that as 5 plus 3. Because no matter how you add it up, it's still going to be 8. The associative property of addition. In general, it's A plus the quantity of B plus C is the same thing as the quantity of A plus B, close the quantity, plus C. That's the same thing as saying this. If I had 4 plus the quantity of 2 plus 1, it is the same thing as the quantity of 4 plus 2, close the quantity, plus 1. What that means is you can add items up in any order. If I add 2 and 1, I get 3. And I can add that to 4. Or I can add the 4 and the 2 together to get 6, and then add 1. Either way you add them up, your answer is still going to be 7 on both sides. This is the commutative property of multiplication. And that says this. A times B is the same thing as B times A. You can multiply 2 items in any order. So if I had 5 times 3, that's the same thing as 3 times 5. Either way, you're going to get 15, no matter what number you start with. The associative property of multiplication says that if you have A times the quantity of B times C, that's the same thing as the quantity of A times B, close the quantity, times C. In other words, if I have 5 times the quantity of 4 times 2, I can also do it as the quantity of 5 times 4, close the quantity, times 2. So on the left-hand side, if I have to multiply 4 times 2 first because they're in parentheses, I would get an 8 and then multiply by 5. On the right side, I could multiply 5 times 4 first to get 20 and then multiply it by 2. 5 times 8 is 40 and 20 times 2 is 40. So what this means is if you have a list of numbers in which you have to multiply them all together, you can multiply them in any order and still come out with the same answer. For this problem, I have to add 3 plus 2 first to get 5, and then if I add 5 I get 10. But over here I'm adding 5 plus 3 first to get 8 and then add 2 and I still get 10. So I can add them in any order. That is the associative property of addition. If you multiply 2 numbers together, you can multiply them in any order. It makes no difference which one comes first. So that is the commutative property of multiplication. You can multiply these 2 together and then multiply by 4, but you can also multiply these 2 first and then multiply by 3. Either way you do it, you get 24. So that is the associative property of multiplication. Sometimes you have to simplify these a little bit to see what is really going on. You have multiplication here and here. You always have to do those first in order of operations problems, so why not just do those? 4 times 2 is 8, and 3 times 5 is 15. On the right side, you have 3 times 5 first, and then 4 times 2. Now that should look familiar. If you can add 2 things in any order, then that would be the commutative property of addition. If you can multiply two items in any order, then that would be the commutative property of multiplication. Remember, sometimes you have to simplify a little bit to see what's going on. 9 times 3 is 27, and then you have plus 6, but on the right side you have 6 plus 27. If you can add items in any order, just two of them, then that would be the commutative property of addition. You have to plug in 2 for A, so 2 times 2, and then 5 for B, and then 2 for A. 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 5 is 15, and 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 15 is 19, minus 4 is 15, and it's answer B. If you substitute in 2 for X and 3 for Y, you'll have to go back and simplify. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 squared is 25. 4 times 2 is 8, and then minus 3. 25 plus 8 is 33, minus 3 is 30, so it's not listed. It should be D.